I am in Dallas, Texas, and I'm about to shoot a video that I've been wanting to shoot since I launched this channel. This is what you might want to call a dream video. What do you do if someone seems really intent on like proving you wrong or getting into a deep debate with you? How do you maneuver that situation? Okay, so evidently before they go door to door, they have an appointment to do a lesson with somebody that they've been meeting with. Has there ever been a moment on your mission where you've been afraid?
Yes.
Tell me about that. Hello Saints, my name is Jeff. I am a pastor in Utah exploring everything I can about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And when I launched this channel, I made a list of my dream videos. Videos that I would absolutely love to make. I didn't know how I was going to make them, but really wanted to, and this was one of them. I have always wanted to make a video shadowing Latter-day Saint missionaries. I presented this idea a few times along the way since launching the channel, and I just couldn't find the right connections to make it happen until I connected with a friend of mine, Daryl Eves, who's one of the co-producers of The Chosen. And he was able to connect me with President Jonathan Ord of the Texas Dallas West Mission. And they invited Joy and I to go to their mission, and I was able to shadow some elders, which I'm about to share with you. Joy was able to shadow some sister missionaries. We went to a zone conference. We were able to sit down with the mission president and his wife. So this dream video has now turned into a dream series. This is the first video where you're gonna see me shadowing some elders. So let's go to Texas. So I made my way to the apartment building where these missionaries lived, and I met Elder Barney and Elder Roberts. And they took me up to their apartment and they showed me around, and they were explaining to me that they had already been up for a couple of hours, keeping in mind that these are young men and young women who have just graduated high school. Many of them living away from home for the first time, learning how to live with other people and form personal disciplines. So they're encouraged to keep a pretty regimented schedule where they get up and they work out, they have breakfast, they get themselves ready for the day. And when I showed up, it was around the time that they were going to be doing their personal studies. As they were showing me around their apartment, the questions started to flow as far as what it's like for them to be living away from home and what is it that they feel that they're developing. Because as I was walking around, I was having flashbacks to my college dormitory. I was remembering what it was like to live away from home for the first time, to live with roommates, figuring out what it looks like to exercise independence and some newfound freedoms, not living under the roof of my parents. So I sat down with them just to get to know them a little bit more and to just figure out what it's been like. Basically putting their lives on pause to serve the church in this way.
Yeah, so my name is Elder Barney. I'm from Springville, Utah, and I've been a missionary for the church for about 22 months.
I'm Elder Roberts. I've been out for 8 months, and I'm from Orem, Utah.
So a typical day as a missionary, we wake up at 6:30 and we'll work out. And then, come back, get ready for the day, eat breakfast. Then just like we were talking about, we'll do our studies in the morning from like 9 to 10. And then usually from really 10 to 9 p.m. So from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. is just, proselytizing, maybe it's getting to know some of the ward members or talking to people on the street. There's also some more times like we have meal times in there. And then, sometimes maybe you'll, like teaching appointments. So really the day-to-day kind of switches up anytime from like 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So it varies. Living in an apartment, because I moved out to Texas right after high school. And so I didn't have any experience of like living away from home or away from mom and dad, right? Yeah. And so I did have to figure out, the dishes don't get done unless you do them,
Yeah.
So it's like even stuff like that where you don't even think about. But there are some things that make your bed every morning, it's just, are you going to do it or not? So, there's a lot of the smaller details that maybe don't matter as much, but, you just learn them over time, how to be responsible,
Yeah.
Do your laundry, do the dishes, cook your food, so. Yeah, just clean up after yourself. So
it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes we have to work through like stuff, like talk about just things maybe that we don't agree with. It's just like a marriage, where you have to work through stuff with your spouse sometimes.
Now, what has it been like serving on a mission in Texas?
It's honestly strengthened my testimony or my belief in the Bible so much. Because before, I would say I had a really strong testimony of the Book of Mormon. But like reading the Bible in seminaries and stuff, I had never really sat down and like studied the New Testament or the Old Testament. But then being on a mission and having the experience to, talk to pastors or talk to just people in different congregations and to hear maybe it's their interpretations or, how it's affected them. and then that caused me, like, oh man, what am I missing out on? So then to go read it, and even if our viewpoints on like what scripture is or like how authoritative it is like different between me and somebody else, but the fact that it still had an impact and brought us closer to Jesus Christ and strengthened our testimony, like that's the most important part, right? And so it's helped me to connect with people, and it's also just forced me to study out questions, figure out how to answer questions, because if people I've talked to a lot of people who understand the Bible a lot better than I did, and so sometimes you have to be humble and admit, like, hey, like I don't know the answer to this question, I got to go study more.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you find those answers, sometimes you don't, but
There's of course times where it gets heated, where people are very
confrontational.
Yeah, I know that they're trying to do their best. I know that their intention, just like ours, is like, hey, we're just trying to bring people to Jesus Christ.
So after I distracted them for a little bit and got to know them, they told me that it was time for them to get to work, which at this point entailed them driving to a church building and following up on social media leads.
Yeah, so this is the first responder. This is the referral tracker.
Okay.
So we just have a sheet where all of the media referrals that we get, we'll put them in the sheet.
Okay.
Just so
One thing that was really cool that they were explaining to me is that this mission in particular is using a lead generation system, if you will, a software that integrates with social media to make it easier for them to follow up with people. For some of these people, they were just inviting them to church. For others, they were just following up on scheduling some times to go and meet with them in their homes. And even in certain cases, they were individuals who were sort of confiding in these young men and talking about stuff that was going on in their lives. And it was just really fascinating to hear the carefulness and the care that they were demonstrating as they were having conversations with one person in particular who was going through some pretty difficult things. I mean, this was one of the first things that completely shifted my understanding of what Latter-day Saint missionaries do, where they aren't just going out, handing out books of Mormon and knocking on doors, but they're really engaging with individuals who are going through things. The way that this conversation was unfolding reminded me a lot of the types of conversations I have in a ministry setting when people from the church that I'm ministering at, or even people outside of the church, are needing to talk, they're needing some counsel, they're needing just to get stuff off their chest. So I really admired sitting there watching these young men care for the individuals on the other side of the phone, and to do so in a way that seemed quite genuine. It wasn't just about getting them to come to church, but there was care for the person there, and I really appreciated that. So after I was able to observe the way they interacted with these individuals as they followed up on contacts, we went into the chapel and I was able to ask them a few more questions about what it is like being a Latter-day Saint missionary. Yeah. What was that call like? What was going on there?
Yeah, so this lady, she was in a kind of rough situation. She had some financial needs, but really what she was looking for a deeper connection with God because she felt like God could help her out with the problems she was facing. And so we just had a conversation about prayer. And then she gave me some of her experiences that she was feeling at church and how that helped her out. And so we just talked about how prayer could help her out and how she could apply it to her life. And so yeah, that's what we did is, she felt comfortable praying and she knew how to pray. And so the next step was just to help her to, know how to make that a good habit in her life and to make that a regular thing.
How often are like personal struggles or personal issues at the heart of your discussions as opposed to like explaining doctrine?
I'd say like 80% of them are just like struggles that they legitimately have, and they're just wanting to find some relief in their life from these struggles. And then, a lot of it does go into the doctrine as well, because the doctrine does help resolve a lot of these issues that they are facing in their life.
So then how often do you guys, when you finish those calls, do you end up meeting with a person personally or, seeing them at church? Is that pretty common, or is that something where they might be in a region where they'll go to a different church or meet with different missionaries?
Yeah, so with the first responders, we usually don't end up meeting with these people in person, the ones that we talk to. And
when you say first responders, that's when you're reaching out to people who have reached out to you on social media.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so they go to usually different areas, and we'll keep in contact with those missionaries and see if they are still meeting with them or if they went to church, just see how we can best support those missionaries and the people that are wanting to learn more.
Yeah, and if it's somebody in our area that, within our stewardship, it's pretty often that we'll call them and set up a lesson in person. because it is ideal. Because it's just a little bit better to explain. You can use object lessons, or even when you're holding the scriptures is a lot more powerful than just hearing it over the phone. And so yeah, I think it's pretty often that if it's people in our area that live close to us, that we'll call them and set up a lesson in person. So yeah.
I'm getting ready to meet with some other missionaries. And I think they're actually going to be knocking on doors, which is the typical stereotype that people have of like, what else do Latter-day Saints do? Tell me about some of the stuff that I might not see today.
Yeah, so another big part of what we do as missionaries is just strengthening the local congregation that we serve in. And so sometimes that could be stopping by families, getting to know the ward leadership, or getting to know, certain individuals in the ward. Because that can also open up a big door to their friends, which one of their friends or their family members need help, or what answers do we have to their questions. And so that's a really good, it's almost like a gold mine, really. There's a lot of success. I'd say most of the success that missionaries see, at least in like retention of people staying in the church if they're to join, is actually the friends of the members, because they have a connection to somebody in the church, and then they're familiar with what they're teaching. And so then when missionaries kind of, come in, they're already familiar with, what Latter-day Saints believe, and, how they practice their faith and what they do. And so, yeah, that's a big part, is to serve the local congregation, just to get to know them and to be, friendly with them. So.
After this conversation, it was time for me to leave Elder Barney and Elder Roberts and to connect with two different missionaries, Elder Blank and Elder Larson. Okay, so evidently before they go door to door, they have an appointment to do a lesson with somebody that they've been meeting with. This is a Spanish-speaking mission, so I'm not going to understand what they're saying, but at least I'll get a little bit of an idea of how they do their lessons. So this is interesting because I wasn't expecting this. As I watched them delivering this lesson, even though I couldn't understand what they were saying, that was probably one of the things that impressed me most. I mean, these are young men that are from Utah and didn't know any Spanish just a year or so ago. And here they are sitting in this man's living room, speaking fluent Spanish, clearly understanding one another. And it just showed me the dedication that these individuals have to really be prepared, not just on doctrine, but even in the language to engage with individuals. It was really impressive. So after they finished the lesson with Nelson, we visited for a minute, and they had to translate for me, but it was still good to get to know Nelson a little bit before we got in the car and were able to sort of unpack a little bit of what I had just observed. All right, so tell me a little bit about what was that I just witnessed.
So we just had an amazing lesson with our friend Nelson. He is from Colombia. He's only been here for 3 months, and we met him. It was an interesting way we found him. He's from our English class.
So I've got to say, I was really impressed with your guys' Spanish. Like, how has that been, like becoming fluent in another language?
It's kind of crazy. Like, I definitely didn't think it would be this possible this quickly, but we get about an hour each day to study Spanish and just like practice our skills, talking, learning, like listening. Because here in Texas, we talk with all kinds of people. And so we talk with people with like Colombian accents or Venezuelan accents.
Oh, so the accents are a thing.
It's crazy. That like, sounds like a different language sometimes.
So from there, we made our way to an apartment complex where they were going to spend some time knocking on doors. And this was sort of, if you will, the moment I was waiting for. So, how do you guys choose where we go?
So we're in an apartment complex. It's called Arbor Creek Apartments, and we like to lock apartment complexes because that's usually where the Hispanic people are, the people that speak Spanish.
How do you determine which buildings you go into and which doors you knock on?
We like to usually start with a prayer, kind of fill it out, or do it strategically, and just remember which ones we've knocked so we don't re-knock into people because they'll get mad.
Okay, so you just had a conversation. Since I don't speak Spanish, I couldn't understand what was going on. Help me understand, what was the conversation like? What happened?
So we just said, what's up? We got to know her a little bit, asked where she's from. She's from Honduras. She's been here for 2 years, and she's about to leave. and we just asked her if she'd be interested in coming to church. She said yes, and she doesn't go to a church right now, so she'd be down. We asked if we can get like her number and pass by another day. She said yes, and we didn't really set up a return, but she's down to talk another day, so
Okay.
success.
Okay. All right. So now you're heading upstairs?
Yep.
Okay.
Seguimos.
So I had a Latter-day Saint friend telling me recently something about missionaries that was really helpful, where it is kind of common where Protestant evangelicals will see Latter-day Saints and they kind of want to get into religious kind of apologetics debates with them. And you say missionaries aren't necessarily trained to be apologists per se. You guys are more like tour guides if someone's interested in learning more about the LDS Church, and it's not necessarily appropriate to try to have mic drop moments with Latter-day Saint missionaries because you guys you're not even interested in arguing with anyone, correct?
Yeah. People love to talk to us. Like if they want to argue with us, that's fine, but we don't, like that's not what we're here to do. We're here to share our testimony and invite people to learn more if they're interested.
And if not?
And if not, that's totally fine.
What do you do if someone seems really intent on like proving you wrong or getting into a deep debate with you? How do you maneuver that situation?
Have a good day.
Yeah, just gotta move on.
We try to avoid any contention as possible. If they're not interested, then they're not interested.
Yeah.
Right. We're just here to like try to increase people's faith, teach if we can, invite people to come into Christ. But other than that, we're not here to bash, you could say.
Yeah. Coming to Texas, I was expecting them to be knocking on doors and encountering a lot of evangelicals. But due to the fact that they are part of a Spanish-speaking mission, most of the people they're talking to are multi-ethnic within a Spanish-speaking community. And a lot of them are Catholic. So they're not necessarily encountering what I was expecting when it came to sort of your typical Texas Baptist, evangelical. But still fascinating to see how they maneuver through it ethnically. It's actually kind of impressive how comfortable they are interacting. So once they finished knocking on doors, we got back in the car and had some really great conversation. So let's chat a little bit about being here in Dallas. You've left everything that you've known. You completely put your life on hold for 2 years. And now you're here serving in this mission. Something that has been told to me is that your mission president, or the person who's kind of overseeing your mission, can really have a huge impact on how you experience your mission. We've already met President Ord and his wife, Sister Ord. They seem like really dynamic people. How have they sort of impacted your experience being missionaries?
I'd say our President Ord and his wife are some of the greatest examples in my life I've seen so far. They've helped out so much on my mission. I've got a lot of time out on my mission, and the stuff I've learned from them is like indescribable. We have conferences every few months or so where they teach us and you get to talk with them, and he's an awesome example. He leads by example. He also knows young people. Like, we're young missionaries, and he gets us. He knows what we're going through. He knows our struggles. He knows our temptations, and like, he's very open, and I feel like it's really easy to talk. He's a comfortable guy, and he's the most loving dude I've ever met.
Yeah, he seems like he's kind of a visionary as well. Like, I saw the cards that you guys were using. I think you have some in your backpack. Yeah, you had pulled them out whenever we were with Nelson. And that's something that he kind of conceptualized, right? Yeah.
So that's his own. We're the only mission right now that uses them. He kind of created them to help us in our teaching.
And what is the information on there based on? Did he come up with the information, or is it from some other resource?
So we have a manual called Preach My Gospel. I don't know if you've heard of it.
That's what the missionaries, when I did a tour of the MTC, they were in a class. They probably had, that's what they had open.
Yeah,
okay.
So we use the manual to help us in our teaching, and all the cards are based off of it.
I know there's a lot of change whenever you're on a mission. On one hand, you're gone for 2 years. How often are you able to talk to your family?
We get to call them every Monday. It's our preparation day. It's our kind of our day off.
Yeah.
So you can call your family on those days.
Do you think this would be more difficult if you weren't able to talk to your family, or do you kind of get used to your independence after a while?
I think for me, I've kind of gotten used to it.
Yeah. Are there any Mondays you skip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we can. We have the option to, but
Yeah.
I definitely don't do it every week.
Yeah. So one of the things that fascinates me most about just hanging out with you guys is I was not expecting to be with missionaries who are part of this Spanish-speaking group. I was expecting to be knocking on doors and guys with cowboy hats answering.
I think it's the greatest thing in the world, what we get to do as Spanish missionaries here in Dallas. Because we meet people from all over the world, Venezuela, South America, they all come here, and most of them are immigrants. And that's one of my favorite aspects of the mission, is just growing, getting to love these people and knowing their culture, who they are, what they believe, how they work. And especially in our mission, we love the Spanish culture. We love the music, the food, the slang, you know, like you see somebody, hey, how's it going? Like, you try to use the words that, like, you ask where they're from. If they're from there, then you can change your vocabulary a little bit. You can change, we call it the Spanish Riz, you know, like, hey, Venezuela.
The Spanish Riz, I like it.
Oh, it's so fun. It's the best.
Yeah, and I mean, we were chatting about this earlier, but that's one of the things that I am finding most fulfilling about Hello Saints is, in a sense, you know, I joke that I'm like Elder McCullough, Sister McCullough, we're on the YouTube mission, you know, and we're in this interfaith space with Latter-day Saints. We've gotten to the point, especially living in Utah, where we are learning more of the lingo and some of the things that culturally resonate with Latter-day Saints. I actually did a trip recently where I was speaking to a large group of Latter-day Saints, and I shared with them the plan of salvation from a Latter-day Saint standpoint. Like, I articulated it to them, and they felt so seen, and I guess call it Latter-day Saint Riz. I don't know. They just like, just me speaking that language. They're like, oh, you do understand us. You see us. You get us. And that's when you can make that connection across a cultural divide, or a cultural barrier. There's some pretty powerful connections you can make with people.
Yeah, that's something that surprised me when I came out of my mission. I remember, like, the first thing, because there's obviously a language barrier, right?
Yeah.
When you come out brand new missionary, and that was my biggest motivator to learn Spanish, was just how much I love the people. I didn't understand them. I didn't really know what they're saying, but I just knew I loved them. And I told God, I was like, okay, I love these people so much. Please help me learn this language so now I can actually help them out, like, so I can actually connect with them. And then when you do, it's like you get to meet tons of people, I'm sure, across the world, and it's one of the greatest feelings ever. Just even if you don't convert them or whatever, just getting to know what they believe.
What is another just like best part of serving on your mission?
Honestly, that's kind of it. It's just like getting to know people and helping them realize who they are, and like in relation to God, who they are, how they're God's children, and how they can become closer to Him. Helping people understand kind of their potential is just awesome. And that's the biggest part of why I'm out here, just meeting people and helping them know who they are. Yeah.
And what's the hardest thing, or maybe the worst thing you've encountered?
Like the hardest thing on a mission?
Yeah.
I'd say people's agency. You have to realize as a missionary that it's up to them. You can't force anything, because it really is hard. It really is hard when you love somebody and like you just really want to, like, please, like, believe in Christ. Please pray. Please, like, you want to see progression as a missionary. Obviously,
yeah.
Just want to help them out as much as you can, because like, for me, I've seen the blessings of the gospel. I've seen how much it's helped me and my family, and I want to share that. And then it's that part of rejection when somebody doesn't do it. It's like, oh, dang it, like, please. And when you love somebody, you want to help them out. So that's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah. Has there ever been a moment on your mission where you've been afraid?
Afraid to...
Just afraid in general?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I've gotten gun threats walking around. There's obviously dangerous situations I've been in, and I won't go too much into detail, but like, I will say as a missionary, we are blessed to have the Spirit with us a lot, because we're constantly praying. Like, I can't count how many times we pray a day. We're constantly reading the scriptures. So I feel like we do have this like kind of protection bubble. We are blessed with that. So it is really obvious, or you can tell when like the Spirit leaves. It's like, this is not a good situation.
Yeah.
Just with that, we're able to avoid most of those situations, but when they come up, even then, there's definitely an element of protection that's there.
Yeah.
Like, there's still fear, obviously, and there's some sticky situations sometimes with people that get a little aggressive, but for the most part, you can come out of them unharmed.
So I don't know how much you know about the evangelical way when it comes to missions work. We're called evangelical for a reason, because we evangelize. And I'm curious to know, what are your thoughts about the fact that, you know, we are out there sharing the gospel. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about evangelicals doing that same type of work, but in the evangelical side of things?
Yeah, I think it's great. I don't really find it as competition. I think it's awesome to know that there's other people out there doing the same thing as us or similar things, you know, preaching the gospel, because it's what the Bible says, go ye therefore. And I think it's good to spread the word of God no matter what background you may be in or where you're going. It's good to know that there's other people with the same purpose.
A lot of missionaries have gone before you. Many will come after you. What advice would you give to my people when they see a Latter-day Saint missionary?
Open the door and be kind. Please. I promise we're not here to try to bash. I promise we're normal people. We're out of high school. Yes, we're young, but we're normal guys. And yeah, I'll just say be kind, love one another. Please don't yell at us.
What if they're not interested in talking about the Book of Mormon or Joseph Smith or any of that stuff?
It's fine by us.
Will you still talk to them?
Oh yeah, we'll talk with everybody. We're grateful for any conversation. It's better than knocking in 115-degree weather, right?
Yeah. Well, that was one thing you said earlier. Like, a bottle of water would be nice.
Yeah, you can offer some water. We're always grateful. We kind of just survive day to day,
Yeah.
food wise, but
Yeah.
we're always grateful.
Hey, Protestant evangelical friends. Here's some advice that I'm going to offer you. At dinner time, they're heading to different people's houses within their congregation, and a lot of that is because they pay for their own mission, so they're not going to be spending a ton of money at Ruth's Chris or Olive Garden. So invite them over for dinner too. I'm sure they'd love that as well. Would you like dinner?
That would be amazing. That would be a miracle. God sent.
You don't even have to talk religion if you don't want to, but that kindness goes a long way. Seeing you as guys right out of high school, finding that independence, and really just wanting to have those types of connections, I think, is my biggest takeaway here. And I really do appreciate you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Showing me around, letting me shadow you. This has been a dream video for me, and you guys got to be the ones to show me around.
We were blessed. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Humanizing these young men was precisely what I was hoping would take place, and that's what did happen. Even though I might very passionately hold different beliefs than the messaging that these Latter-day Saint missionaries were sharing, there is still a sacredness in hearing them and listening to them and allowing them to process with me what it is they believe and why they believe it's important to share it. And it led to connections that actually go beyond doctrine. Connections that led to this really amazing opportunity and experience at the Salt Lake City Airport. Okay, so we are at the Salt Lake City Airport, and we're about to experience something we weren't expecting to experience, and that is greeting the missionaries that we shadowed as they return home.
I'm really excited.
I am too.
I don't think we were anticipating having the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, I've been wanting to make a video greeting missionaries coming home, but it's even better that they're missionaries that not only we know, but that we actually spent some time with as they were serving on their mission. So
we've lived here in Utah for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is the amount of time they've been gone from Utah. So
yeah.
This is interesting.
We've lived a lot of life in those 2 years, and so have they, but away from their families. So this is going to be really cool to kind of share this moment and just watch it unfold. I mean, this is so exciting. Look at all of the people who are here, like all the families. We cannot wait to greet the missionaries they've not seen for 2 years.
They're standing in line. I don't know if that's allowed, but
Yeah.
good for them.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the point I'm trying to make is this. This right here is so much bigger than interfaith dialogue. This is people. This is families. These are connections that I'm really glad that we were able to make. Connections that I want to continue to make. Because so often, whenever we see someone of a different faith persuasion, especially if they're going around sharing what they believe, we can get distracted and fixated on proving points or making points. And I think what this experience is teaching me, if we miss the person, we're missing the point. This is the point. It's about people. It's about families. It's about connection. And even Joy, she got to greet her missionaries who are returning today. If you want to see her experience, Shadows and Sisters, you got to come back for more videos. Thank you to President Ord and Sister Ord. I want to say a special thank you to Daryl Eves for making this video possible, for all of the elders and sisters who so warmly welcomed us as we shadowed them for a day. So like this video, subscribe, come back for more missionary videos, and until next time, I'll see you later, Saints.